Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. Like Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day. Yeah?
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
From Adams Morgan to Anacostia Park, we all want safer neighborhoods. But what does real safety mean? Real safety means preventing crime before it happens. By having police work with communities to disrupt cycles of violence. By supporting families with stable housing. And providing more mental health and drug treatment. We know that adding more police and locking up more people doesn't make us safer. Real safety means investing in the things that help prevent crime. Learn more at RealSafetyDC.
Hi there, and welcome again to the Explaining History podcast. If there was in the future, a kind of an online archive or a museum with the foundational documents of the global far right, the US national security strategy would have to be kind of up there. It is to the 2025 national security strategy that's just been published. It is kind of what it is to sort of the global far right what kind of Churchill's Iron Curtain speech was to the kind of militant liberal and conservative cold warriors. It contains the kind of the talking points of the global far right, kind of talking points that were eccentric fringe points of view just a decade ago. And it targets Europe in particular. So to kind of look at it's an extreme and alarming document. And it is a manifesto, really, for American interference in European elections and effectively the threat of kind of subversion of European political life and the kind of soft overthrow of social democratic and centre left, centre right governments. So and this is from Cass Mood's write-up of it in The Guardian, and he writes, "The document espouses an aggressive form of foreign policy interference in which the US explicitly sets itself the goal of promoting European greatness." Okay, we'll pick apart what that means in a moment. Its language could have been directly lifted from Viktor Orban's speeches during the so-called refugee crisis of 2015 to 16. Orban said, We want Europe to remain European, to regain its civilizational self-confidence. Even more ominously, the document claims that Europe's economic decline is eclipsed by the real and more stark prospect of civilizational erasure. So this is an explicitly racist document. It is about it's putting into print the kind of rhetoric that Trump comes out all the time with, and about cities like London and Paris being overrun with dangerous immigrants. There's all this kind of mad nonsense that sort of is promulgated in the right wing Twitter sphere, particularly kind of in the American, but also in the British and European right wing Twitter sphere, that there are like no-go areas in London, and that London has fallen. London is some kind of knife crime and violent kind of hellhole. Not really. I mean, it has its share of problems like anywhere else. But these are the kind of constant, ongoing talking points of the extreme right, most of which is promulgated by bot accounts and people, various kind of Twitter and Reddit kind of accounts based in places like Myanmar and Bangladesh. Bangladeshi bloggers that know how to wind people up, and the fact that Elon Musk will pay them money for it. So it's a coordinated online and policy initiative to create a narrative that justifies this extreme far right response to pluralistic European life. Why is Trump doing this? Okay, well, there are a number of reasons, but with Trump, it's always about the money. It's always about greed. He doesn't believe in anything. No doubt he has all sorts of racist views. I think that's been well established. But he doesn't believe in anything sufficiently enough to base policy around it. What he does believe in is two things, I would say. Firstly, acquiring wealth for himself through theft, and secondly, three things maybe. So, wealth for himself through theft, his own self-aggrandizement, and a kind of thuggish America first standpoint, which means that you operate as a nation how Trump used to operate as a quote unquote businessman. You smash and grab, you welch on your debts, and you present your enemies with a bad deal and a worse one. The whole section, writes Casmood, the whole section on Europe is steeped in decades of European far-right ideology and propaganda. The EU and migration policies are held responsible for transforming the continent and creating strife, censorship of free speech, and suppression of political opposition, cratering birth rates, and loss of national identities and self-confidence. According to the document, if present trends continue, the continent will be unrecognisable in 20 years or less. As such, it is far from obvious whether certain European countries will have economies and militaries strong enough to remain reliable allies. Indeed, the Trump administration believes that within a few decades at least, certain NATO members will become majority non-European. Again, openly racist language. Expanding on this theme, in the interview with Politico, Trump made the claim that this would make the countries much weaker. These arguments have strong overtones of two theories regarded as foundational for the contemporary far-right circles. The first, and we talk about this a lot, is Oswald Spengler's Decline of the West, whose thesis on the cyclical decline of civilizations was used by the German far-right to criticize the perversion and weakness of the democratic Weimar Republic. All this kind of stupid nonsense of, strong men create stable societies, that create good times, that generate weak men, that create bad societies, blah, blah, bloody, blah. And you can find all of these memes churned out again and again and again online. You have nostalgia accounts with a picture of Edwardian Britain or fin de siècle Paris, with beautiful architecture and handsome cabs and carriages and gentlemen in stovepipe hats, and somebody writing, "Oh, what a wonderful civilization that was. What happened?" Sort of as if waiting for the kind of the implied response, which is going to be a racist one, or one that sort of implies kind of like some deep cultural weakness, which then will lead to another racist thought. So these arguments have strong overtones, so on and so forth. And the second is The Great Replacement, published in 2011 by the French novelist Renaud Camus, who translated long existing native fears into a more explicit conspiracy theory, accusing European elites of using immigration to replace the rebellious native populations and import a more docile, dependent electorate. There is the Great Replacement theory is an anti-Semitic theory as well, because the real villains of the piece that are importing all these third world savages in the eyes of the extreme far right are the Jews. The Jews are in the background, kind of doing all of this, and you have openly anti-Semitic American commentators, people like Bannon, for example, coming out with all of this sort of stuff. Now, mass immigration into Europe in the decades after the Second World War was based on the needs of capital. Capital imported. Large numbers of Turkish workers came to Germany. There were Algerian workers who came to France. In Britain, the development of the welfare state and the rebuilding after the war, and also the kind of the profits of British companies were based on flows of migrant workers who had been imperial subjects, who were British citizens in many cases, and they were people who had come to Britain looking for a better life. I've talked quite a lot about the development of Black Britain and Black British consciousness, and lots of the people who came from the Caribbean in the 1940s were fiercely loyal to Great Britain. They believed that they were coming to the mother country. They were had respect for the royal family. They saw Britain as the civilization that they were part of, and were generally treated appallingly when they arrived. And they have become, Britain's identity is a multi-ethnic one. It has been throughout the 20th century and into the 21st. The reason for as I was saying, the economic rationale behind all of this, behind placing pressure on Europe to elect kind of Trump-friendly far-right governments, is always about deregulation. One of the things that the American kind of corporate elites that find Trump useful at the moment, they'll get rid of him eventually, but one of the things that they find that those corporate elites dislike the most is the fact that European standards and regulations on everything from tech platforms through to food standards mean that that American capital cannot dominate Europe. Perhaps they see the prospect of Chinese capital dominating Europe. I mean, if you look at the explosion in sales of Chinese cars, that gives you an indication as to where things are going. It would be, the German car industry is about to be wiped out, by China. And a half sensible German government or a half sensible German industrial conglomerate might agree for a kind of a joint deal between, say, BMW or Audi and Chinese EV manufacturers. That might be sort of vaguely sensible, but it looks as if at the moment the level of kind of political cravenness, not just in the European Union, but in various European capitals, when it comes to the Trump government effectively saying we are going to put time and effort and energy, and most importantly money, into undermining your governments, undermining your democracies, and undermining you. The fact that there's been virtually no response to this is only going to encourage Trump. I mean, he often works from the standpoint that once somebody is effectively shown that they're frightened of you, that they are weak, that they are craven, and you can shove them around a bit, do it some more. It has no respect for that. It is the nativist fever dream encapsulated in both ideas that gives the Trump administration the right, if not the duty, to intervene in European affairs. The document implies American diplomacy should continue to stand up for genuine democracy, freedom of expression, and unapologetic celebrations of European nations' individual character and history. And it is clear where it sees its allies. America encourages its political allies in Europe to promote this revival of spirit, and the growing influence of patriotic European parties indeed gives us cause for great optimism. Nativist, racist, fascist parties.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah?
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Tonight's meal, tilapia surprise with boiled cabbage. Begin cooking steps 1 through 50 now.
Are you kidding me? Making dinner shouldn't feel like doing a 1,000-piece puzzle. With Blue Apron's new one-pan assemble and bake meals, the hard part's already done. Pre-chopped ingredients, zero stress. Just assemble, bake, and enjoy. No complicated steps, no mountain of dishes. Try Assemble and Bake today. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
It's third down.
Did you see the game last night? Of course you did, because you used Instacart to do your grocery restock. Plus, you got snacks for the game, all without missing a single play. And that's on multitasking. So we're not saying that Instacart is a hack for game day, but it might be the ultimate play this football season. Enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Service fees apply. For 3 orders in 14 days. Excludes restaurants. Instacart. We're here.
And when they talk about freedom of speech, what they're talking about is the ability of far-right parties to lie openly, to challenge any regulations and laws around misinformation. They are talking about freedom for hate speech, and most of the kind of the free speech advocacy on the extreme right is about the ability to kind of unchain and unburden right-wing fascist rhetoric from the kind of the kind of the Karl Popper-esque kind of limitations on freedom of speech. There's a constant ongoing debate about, you know, the platforming or no platforming of fascism, and Karl Popper famously, you know, put forward this kind of theory of this kind of the paradox of free speech. He says if you platform fascists and allow them to speak, they're not there to debate in good faith. They don't care about coming to a reasoned, rational, Enlightenment style meeting of minds and logic and answers, anything like that. They just want to propagate their ideas, and what they want to do is to seize power. And when they do, it will be well-meaning liberals like you that end up in the camps. And this is we're at a moment now where fascist speech almost everywhere is being mainstreamed. I think I said the other day that the way in which it happens in Great Britain is that the rhetoric of the kind of the street far right filters into the Reform Party. The Reform Party has to kind of respond to this because those really the thuggish elements are that some of their voters. They have a huge chunk of the old kind of sort of country shires Tories that don't really want to be associated with such yobs, but they do have the extreme right will vote for them at election time, so they have to kind of mainstream some of those ideas, some of the more kind of authoritarian, overtly fascist ideas. As a result, the Conservative Party moves further to the extreme right to capture some of those votes and to appear to be the patriotic party, and Labour follow them. So this domino effect, this tiny, tiny, tiny fringe of ideas from what was once the British National Party, and before that the National Front, and then the EDL, the English Defence League, people that have got copies of Mein Kampf on their bedsides and they read it quite regularly, this filters through into mainstream British politics to the extent that human rights lawyer Sir Keir Starmer has argued today that the European Convention on Human Rights must be watered down. This is a key objective of the extreme right, so that refugees particularly can be removed, stripped of any kinds of formalized rights from the moment that they step ashore. This would have made, for example, the expulsion of refugees to a concentration camp in Rwanda, which was the Tories' flagship policy. That would have made that possible, and it was only politicized judges that got in the way of that. So we are at a really, really alarming inflection point. Cass Mood writes, in other words, the US believes that it is key to its national security to make Europe great again, and that European far right is the only political force that can achieve this. Consequently, its broad policy for Europe prioritizes cultivating resistance to Europe's current trajectory within European nations, read the far right, and building up the healthy nations of Central, Eastern, and Southern Europe. In particular, aligned countries that want to restore their former greatness, read Hungary and Italy. States, if not openly fascist, then, fascist curious. While the document remains vague about how it will achieve this, it's clear that a priority of the Trump administration is to put pressure on Europe to adopt a radical policy around freedom of speech, close to that which prevails in the US, allowing a European-wide Fox News, for example, particularly towards far-right speech, and not just on social media. Another is to normalize Russia, or, as the document calls it, to re-establish strategic stability with Russia. Although the country is not explicitly called a future ally, the Trump administration clearly does not treat Russia as an adversary either. In a broader sense, the national security strategy takes its inspiration less from the glorified US of the 1950s, often assumed to be the ideal behind the Make America Great Again slogan, than the Monroe Doctrine of 1823, articulated by President James Monroe. This warned European powers not to interfere in the Western Hemisphere, i.e. the Americas, which he declared to be the US's sphere of interest. The Trump administration's policy document promises to assert and enforce a Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, which involves the US enlisting countries around the world that want to help safeguard US national interests.
Tonight's meal, tilapia surprise with boiled cabbage. Begin cooking steps 1 through 50 now.
Are you kidding me? Making dinner shouldn't feel like doing a 1,000-piece puzzle. With Blue Apron's new one-pan assemble and bake meals, the hard part's already done. Pre-chopped ingredients, zero stress. Just assemble, bake, and enjoy. No complicated steps, no mountain of dishes. Try Assemble and Bake today. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. Like Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day. Yeah?
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
So again, this is none of this is particularly new. This is the kind of thing that, for example, J.D. Vance was talking about over the last couple of years. And there are those in the Trump administration that think in racialized civilizational terms, but follow the money is my only thought on this. It is about the interests of American capital. And American capital, perhaps not facing the kind of the most optimistic outlook, sees Europe as a place to kind of be conquered. When people like Yanis Varoufakis have talked about Europe entering into a kind of a century of humiliation, these are the kind of like the sounding cannons of that. This is the beginning, and the reason why it is that Europe for a long time allowed its foreign policies to be influenced by NATO, and it allowed its security to be provided mainly by America, in all fairness, and it has ceded its tech industries and its energy security and a host of other things to America, particularly from the Ukraine war onwards. So it is weak, and the weak, as we say, shall be exploited. Great Britain obviously tries to, post-Brexit, throw itself on America's mercy, and so far is mildly more tolerated. It's vaguely more useful. It can do a bit of pageantry to impress Trump periodically when he wants a state visit and he wants his ego stroking. But when Trump is gone, I do not expect for a second for British prime ministers to be even considered by whoever replaces Trump, Republican or Democrat. What I imagine is that in the 21st century, whoever sits in the White House after Trump will want to speak to Vladimir Putin, they'll want to speak to Xi Jinping, they'll want to speak to Narendra Modi and a couple of other key global figures, and they will not be particularly concerned about what it is a British Prime Minister has to do or say or think. And they certainly, it will be very, very difficult, I think, given the strategic and cultural direction that this national security strategy presents to us, it will be very, very difficult, I think, for a Democrat president in a first presidential term, at least, to row back on much of it. The optics might be slightly nicer, but the emphasis might well be not dissimilar. I doubt you'll have President Newsom, if that ever happens, making explicitly far-right stances. I can't imagine that at all. But I think you will have a Democrat president in the future if European regulations on American corporations are downgraded, rather enjoying the fact that when a US president addresses the EU listens. Okay, on that bleak one, I will finish today, and I may be doing a podcast later on perhaps on the part 2 of Russia's Jewish politics in the late 19th century. Take good care, everybody. All the rest. Bye-bye.
G'day, this is Tony and Ryan from Tony and Ryan, very good name, and today we want to talk to you about Boost Mobile.
You know how holiday shopping is supposed to be fun, but somehow turns into a full-time job?
The lines, the chaos, the last-minute panic, the parking, it's a lot.
Yeah, this year, Boost Mobile's helping you treat your wallet and yourself with the $25 unlimited plan.
You get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with no trade-ins, no contracts, and no hassle. Just bring your own phone, start saving, and keep the vibes high and your wallet full.
Finally, a holiday deal that doesn't require wrapping paper.
Visit boostmobile.com to start saving. After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 per month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
Right across America, people listen to the Tony and Ryan podcast every day. I'm Ryan, this is my best friend Tony.
Howdy.
No, we're Australian, they're from the US.
G'day.
Perfection. But don't just take our word for it. Andrew's in Washington. Why do you love the podcast, Andrew?
Well, I do love some hot, fun garbage.
And you're a big member of our podcast community as well.
Feel like you're in the conversation, you can laugh with them, and then you can get into the community and have all the same jokes and chat with other people too.
Get your brain break daily with us, Tony and Ryan.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Explaining History. This podcast is an independent production, and it's listener support that keeps these conversations going week after week. If you find value in the show and want to help cover the costs of research and production, please consider making a contribution. You can join our community on Patreon or make a one-off donation. Just follow the links in the show notes for this episode. Every bit of support is truly appreciated. Thanks again for listening.